Hey, Planeswalkers, Mythras here. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. Today is one of my favorite days. Most of you know this, whether you've watched my content before, you've seen some of my posts, or you've subscribed to the channel already. And if you're new, it is one of my favorite days because it is tier list day. I try to do this once a month. And what we do is we cover a tier list. 2, we talk about current trends, observations within the meta, and then 3, we typically cover the decks at a high level. So that is what you're going to get today. But before we go talk about that, just a little context here to give you, set the stage, set the setting, because we've come a long way. We've been like 2 months now into Zendikar Rising. We've survived the Great Rotation, so when Zendikar Rising dropped, we've survived not only 1 ban, but 2. We lost Euro couldn't escape, and we got rid of Omnath and a few other things, and I'll throw Clover in there because it was impactful. So, Planeswalkers, we started at 10. Then we got to about 20 decks. Today, I got about 40 plus decks for you. It's crazy, but I'm so excited to spend a ton of work, but I'm happy to share it with you today. So before we get into the list, just a couple of things here to level set. First off, those of you that are new or those of you that are returning, a tier list is essentially a stack rank order for Magic of decks that are more likely to beat the other decks in that list and also against all the other decks out there. So this particular deck list is within and of itself, but again, we got a lot. You guys can go back and check out all the other tier lists if you wanted to, between the 2 that we did in October, or this is the first one that we've done in November, to kind of see some of that trends and changes. But again, I will talk about that here in a second. So that is what a tier list is, and in terms again of Magic and the way that I do it, it's that stack ranking. I do it in terms of tier 1, 2, and 3. I don't like the halvesies. I don't like it. I try and do it and make a definitive decision. And then additionally, the ones that rank higher, generally, in my opinion, are better. Again, this is my point of view, given all the context, all the information, gameplay, articles that I read, statistics that I see, tournaments that I watch, all that stuff for you in one nice little complete package. So what we will do before we go check this out, as always, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate your support. I really do. I'm very thankful to have your attention here for the next couple of minutes. And I'll also, as always, I appreciate your support. So please feel free to subscribe down over there. You can also like the video if you like it. You can like me on Facebook. You can also follow me on Twitter and Twitch to stay up to date on content like this. And then also you can stay in touch with my Mythic journey for those of you that enjoy watching the gameplay and seeing how I'm progressing, as well as I've included the Untapped Companion down there for you if you want to share yours with me or share yours with the community as well. I love seeing that. With that said, Planeswalkers, also down below in the description are other ways to connect. I have Discord. I got other ways to support the channel as well. Shout out, as always, to all the patrons. So I appreciate that. Now, quickly, why you came. We're going to go to that first piece, the tier list. So let's go ahead and check this out. What? There is no numbers. Well, there's some here, right? So I've done a historic one. I've done a bunch of standard ones. Today, I'm doing my tier list a little bit differently. So a little bit different setting. Part of it is, again, I said 40 decks. I'd have to delete and change up 40 different decks. A ton of work. You guys are awesome. I love doing it. So I'm gonna do it in a different format today. So with that said, here is the tier list, my friends. 1 second. Let me get to the right spot for you. There we go. So here's the tier list, my friends. This is what we're going to look at here for the moment. And then additionally, as always, a couple things that I do want to talk about. So because I have it set up this way, I will talk about quickly here the top 4 decks in the tier 1 at the end at a high level. But I encourage all of you to go down below in the description. All these decks are there. They're all there with this lovely, awesome, great content. You'll find the YouTube videos. You'll find links to the deck lists for you as well that you can absolutely go check and copy and paste all in one consolidated spot. And additionally, I got a nice little article that I put in a little bow, not only this video, but in a little bow for you in a blog. So you guys can go to the website as well and see all this content. You can see all the observations and things I'm going to talk about here in a minute. But again, you guys want to talk about the tier list. So here's what we got going on for November. In the top 4, really tier 1. And I will tell you guys, I've been paying a lot of attention to a lot of things. And this was pretty tough to some extent, because we've seen a lot of things come in and a lot of things go out. And I think the biggest thing that you'll notice between this time and last time, the change in the Yorion decks. That's definitely one of the key callouts here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the observations here in a minute. But here's what we got going on in Tier 1. We got Mono Green Food. We got Esper Doom. We got Gruul Adventures still in Dimir Rogues. Now, generally, I try to keep this in terms of kind of a bell-shaped curve. Obviously, if you like statistics, kind of a little bit at the front, a little bit big chunk in the middle, and a little bit at the end in terms of kind of your T-curve, as we'd like to say in mathematics or whatever, But I'm terrible at math, but I can still count cards on the screen for you guys. So anyway, we got 4 decks there. Those are the 4 that we have. Tier 2, I got about 20 decks. So here again, some of the newcomers and things just to call out here. We got Temur Ramp. We got Orzhov Auras. Rakdos is still doing very well. We got Mono Black Control, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. Temur Obosh Adventures, again, another one that we can talk about. Mono Red Aggro, still doing very well. Mono Red Control is a newcomer. We got Mono Green, so this is big stompy there. We got Mardu Yorion Doom, so another new one. This one was slightly difficult for me to kind of place. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We got Selesnya Adventures, Sultai Midrange, and Selesnya Adventures is kind of a mid-range deck. We have Dimir Control. We have Azorius Yorion Blank. So again, this is a pretty big fall. Mono White Auras, Boros-Yore Cycling, Mono White Aggro, Orzhov Auras, Naya Ramp, Dimir Mill. Rounds out our Tier 2. And then when we get into Tier 3, we have Abzan Ultimatum, so one I recently did. A Mono Blue Control, Mono Black Enchantments, Golgari Adventures, so Golgari's kind of taking a pretty big hit too. Simic Mutate, Naya Winata, Grixis Control, Selesnya Counters, Is It Tempo, Boros Warriors. We have Rakdos Aggro, it's a pretty interesting one there, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. Boros Knights, Abzan Mutate, Jeskai Yorion Control, Orzhov Aggro, Orzhov Party, and Jeskai Spells to round it all out. So again, Planeswalkers, this is a collective list of roughly 41 decks. I think it's a 40 plus, makes it easier on me to say. Lots of changes, lots of things going on. This is a good bridge for us to talk a little bit more about those observations. But please, if you have questions, if you have comments, please let me know down below. You can also hit me up in the Discord channel if you'd like to discuss in another venue. Absolutely happy to entertain. This stuff is very important, and part of the reason why I wanted to get this to you was obviously, at least in the U.S. we have, and I think last week was the Canadian holiday, but in the U.S. We do have Thanksgiving, and I like to think, at least despite the situation, people have a little bit of time to actually potentially spend some more time gaming outside. I'd say the minimal family stuff. Unfortunately, you're probably going to be like me, and you'll have a little bit more time gaming. So, with that said, again, this is the list for you. It's down below. You'll have access to all the links. You have access to the website. You got all that stuff, you guys. Please feel free to ask. So we're going to back. I'm going to move this screen off. We'll come back in a minute and take a look at it. But I do want to talk about some of these key observations because A, it is very important. B, it's also, again, in my opinion, as a competitive gamer, as someone that enjoys playing heavily, and also just in terms of keeping things fresh and having fun, it's good to have a diverse deck group that you can play, and equally understand if you are competitive or you really like playing one deck, the decks that you may encounter and how you may play them. So you got 40 decks to memorize, my friends. This is a big meta right now. It's not like you got 10 key ones. So that kind of hits to our first point. that I do want to talk about here. As I mentioned last time, I'm kind of looking at this as like the Spirit Squad cheerleader kind of a thing. But I just want to say, long live the balance. So I know that there's been a lot of frustrations in the community about UI, lag, stores, all that stuff. You can go to the MTGA Arena, Reddit, whatever, and there's always something there. But with that said, not calling out Wizards, necessarily to say that they're doing something great, but hey, I do have to say that this has been a very, very balanced standard meta. We got at least 2 more months of it, which is great. And for me, it probably hasn't been something like this. And I think many of you would agree, since like Return to Ravnica. So I feel like that's almost a decade ago now. I'm getting old. But anyway, with that said, it is very interesting. It's very unique, and that is a culmination of what you're going to see here with all these decks, my friends. So many things, so much goodness, lots of things that you can play. And one of the reasons why I can keep pumping out these awesome daily videos for you, because you guys are coming up with great stuff. You're trying out content, you're trying out decks. I can play those decks, so I love user submitted decks. There were several of them. I love it, and I want to thank you guys. If you do have decks that you want to submit, please let me know. I'm always happy to take a look and give them for a spin, and give my take on them. So that's the first piece. So one, kind of hats off to Wizards. I mean, it is tough, to actually find balance, despite what everyone always thinks. You do the tests and you do all these things. We're the best test group. I don't care what anyone says. Not until it's in production. You're never ever going to get everything right, because that's just the way it works. I'm sorry. So we'll move on from there, because we still get 2 months to enjoy it. Hopefully we're going to have a bunch more decks that are coming out. And again, we'll find those things. We'll talk about some of those things in the other points here. But again, Spirit Squad cheerleader here that is very happy about this meta. At this time of the year, there's a lot of fatigue that tends to set in, because there is a long gap in terms of the next set. But I do think it's very healthy and a lot of fun, and we get to see that in a lot of events, and we get to see where a lot of things have been too. The next one that I definitely want to call out there too within that spot is just some of the data I've seen. Within that meta, there's really a top end of 10 to 15% that typically are on one deck here in this particular standard. It's not like the Omnath where 50% of people are playing it. So it's very healthy, very healthy. And the win ratios of some of those decks too, tend to be fairly balanced, and the things that were much better out of the gate have actually became worse in terms of win rates. They're still great decks, and I'm talking about things like Dimir Rogues and Mono Red, and that's a little bit different between best of 3 and best of 1, but this is obviously a best of 3 tier list here, so I maybe forgot to call that out, so you can keep that in mind. But one of the other observations that I think is important to keep in mind is Yorion. So when we looked at that list, hot out of the gates, right after Omnath was banned, we had Yorion Selesnya deck. We also had Yorion Blink, and those things were heavily, heavily played. And there's been a pretty big shift. I think what you saw was Orzhov go up the list. You saw Esper go up the list, and obviously Mardu, and all those have a Doom component to them. And it's pretty interesting to see. Andrea Minucci had a great run with Esper Doom here, I think, last weekend. Phenomenal. I think, really the time to shine. And additionally, it's kind of like every other weekend or every other big event, there's a deck that's kind of time to shine. It's not like everyone plays Omnath and, hey, Omnath's going to win, or, the stuff that we saw with some of the adventure things as well. It's fairly interesting. Now, Gruul is still very strong. We know that. But there's a lot of openings here. There's things like Temur Obosh Adventures now that's coming up. Then we saw that in the list. We got a very, very healthy look. And I will tell you, from all these decks, there's still a big opportunity there in the space. So again, Yorion's kind of came back down. I call it Icarus. A little too close to the sun. Yorion's cousin at this point in my mind, but kind of falling back down. There was very, very popular. Yorion's not going away. The flavors changed, but again, still open from that standpoint. And I think we'd seen that real big shift to late game starting to come back a little bit, but also other late game decks starting to enter. And that's going to bring me to my next point. I called it, my friends. I told you Ugin was coming back, and Ugin has definitely came back. So we see the influx of two key decks here: mono red control and mono black control as well. So that's big red and that's mono black. And to be honest, I love playing those decks. Absolutely love playing those decks. Had a ton of fun. I did put it into my quote here. If you go to the blog and check out the link, I definitely put it in there when I was first looking for it. I'm like, I can't find it. But I knew that I'd said it. I thought I was dreaming for a minute, but I did find it. So I did want to call that out. I think we'll continue to see Ugin in this space. And part of that speculation, again, for me at that time was just, and I'll read it here to you, was there was a rise in the ramp decks, within that release. And I think it was due in part to the high usage of Ugin in the format. Yet, I do, well, let me take that back because I missed this in my best of 3 commentary last time, so figured I would add it here. So there is becoming a slight rise in ramp decks. Sadly, next release for me, so that's speaking of this release in the videos. And however, I think that is also due in part to not a high usage of Ugin in the format. So yet, I say yet because I did posterize that Ugin definitely may make a comeback and is certainly a great answer to loads of decks in the format. So I did read that verbatim. You guys can go check it out. But that was the piece that I wrote about a month ago, and that is actually what we've seen. So it's cool to see that. You guys saw mono red control here at the top 20. My face is in the way actually, but let's maybe I can scroll down here and you guys can see it. Boop, 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 boop. There you go. Mono red control, top 20, top 500 mono black control. They're very strong. So Ugin is back, my friends. So keep that in mind as you play. You may start seeing those more obviously with the ultimatum decks as well. A good cheat to get Ugin in. Lots of things there. So keep that in mind. And again, I don't have a crystal ball. I just like to say things. Just like everyone else, you say 50 things, you'll get one right. So, however, you can go look at my list. It was there. So, just calling that out. Next, we have one other thing that I think is pretty important. And this is something that I discovered, I will say, more so in this standard than the last couple seasons, and additionally a couple sets. And one in part of that is due to the balance of the current meta. But there is what I would call definitely overlooked and underplayed cards. And two of those in particular, I definitely want to talk about here for a minute because I think it's pretty important. Now, unfortunately, they're both in the black or swamp color schema. So, there's still other things out there, but it just happened to kind of click for me. And I'd seen it click for others too in some of the conversations. So I just want to bring these to the forefront. But first and foremost, we have Soul Shatter. So Soul Shatter was a part of this lovely Sultai Midrange deck that we ran. And I will tell you, I was kind of on the border of it when I first read it. But sometimes what I've also learned through this process is you just got to play the cards. They may not interact the way that you think until you actually get put in the situation. So again, like I talked about with releasing sets, we're the real beta. We're the real testers. We're the real QA. It's going to change. And that's how I felt with Soul Shatter. I looked at him like, it's all right. What I found out was when I played mono green and you got the Wicked Wolf popping in, you guys saw this, and I could cast that spell and they're forced to sack it. They're toast. It's a huge advantage. So there's a lot of things that you can do well, and I would actually tell you that I think it's a very, very important sideboard card now relative to what I think people are playing. So still underused, underplayed. I also do want to call out Dan Pham as well, who's done a ton of research on the decks that we've been presenting and playing. He does a great job of running through matches and then providing additional commentary. So I do just want to give a quick shout out there because I always appreciate those things, and I do notice. So thank you very much. It adds a lot of additional color and content, and many of you know that I do a new deck every day. So I love it when you guys pile on and share your stories and share the content and share what your findings are, because I think it's important. Good old crowdsourcing. So anyway, the next one that I do want to cover here, because again, very, very important, was found in, for me anyway, in the top 500 mono black control deck with Ugin, Necromentia. So I feel like when you read, I feel like when you read it, half the time you like miss things, but that card just shuts things down, absolutely shuts things down. So in that deck, I played I don't want to say mirror match. I think I was saying mirror match because it wasn't quite a mirror match, but a big red deck. The moment I got Necromentia and took out Ugin, I knew the game was over. So the big takeaway here is it's an underused card that will rip your opponents apart, and you can take out 4, and if you're on 4, you're taking out 12 cards out of their deck, and it's very, very powerful, and you can take out all key win conditions, particularly against late game decks. It is so painful. It is so painful. So that is another one that I wanted to call out. I know that there's several more out there. You guys tell me. I want to hear it. I want to listen. I want to see those decks, like I said, because I think it's a lot of fun. Again, meta's super healthy. This isn't something that we get a chance to do a lot. So get out there and brew, get creative. I love covering love covering your content. You guys know I brew too. So maybe I'll get in there and do some other brewing as well. But there's just so many great things to cover for you guys. Next, we do have continuation still within the competitive space. So when we do go back to that tier list, it wasn't like everything got completely knocked down. They're still competitive. I'd say the win rates dropped at most. So instead of having the best deck at 60% wins, maybe it's 55 kind of a thing, right? So a little bit different. So things to keep in mind there, but there is a continuation. The Rogues decks are still strong. Gruul decks are still strong. The Yorion decks are still strong. The Esper ones just kind of moved up. There's a lot of really strong stuff here that's going to continue to move around and shake things up within the meta that we'll definitely see. And then the one last thing that I do want to leave you with, as I've already mentioned a few times, there are still competitive jank and homebrew decks to be discovered. And believe me when I say this, not a day goes by, and many of you guys know that I'm on Reddit, that I think of the jank memes going, ooh, I should try that. And I tell you that I feel like that every other day today in competitive, where I'm going, ooh, I need to find that one. And I think you guys saw me do that with the mono red double visions deck the other day. There's just a lot of cool stuff. And again, let's all brew, let's all enjoy this. Again, I'm a competitive player. I believe that there's always a path. And particularly in a meta like this, stuff really moves around. So you want to have a couple of good decks to kind of punch a hole through that path, particularly if you are, in Mythic or driven to get to Mythic. As I always say, a lot of these decks, even at Tier 3, can get you there. It just depends time of day, how you play, situations that you run into, all those things. I do have a feeling that any given day, one deck can beat another. Whether or not it was still an Omnath deck or an Oko deck back in the day, they still lost, man. They were on 100% win rate, but that's how it goes. So with that said, Planeswalkers, as I like to say, again, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate your support. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel down over there. Additionally, like the video if you like it. You can like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and Twitch to stay up to date on content like this. Hit me up on Discord. There's other ways, as I mentioned, down below to support the channel. Lastly, I'm going to pull up the list here one last time so that we can take another closer look at it. But as I did mention, I'm not going to do a deep dive on all the decks this time. because all the lists are down below for you, so you have access to them. If you got questions, like I said, hit me up. I will go look at these four. Well, really, I'll do Mono Green Food. I'll do the Esper Doom one because we haven't done those ones, and then I'll also do probably the Temur Ramp, and then I'll go look at the Mono Black Control, Dimir Obosh Adventures, and then Mono Red Control. So I'll do those ones for us today, just because they are newer. So we'll run through those real quick. And as always, Planeswalkers, like I've said a few times already, I appreciate your support. So let's start here and take a look here now at this Mono Green Food deck. Where are you? There we go. So this one I got from MQ Weekend. Great deck. Let's see what we got going on here. I gotta move my... Oh, not that one. There we go. Ooh, almost cried. Gotta move my face. So here's what we got going on. So quickly, this deck is all about the food. So you're leveraging food to really protect your creatures, have that life gain, get some draw, and then this big guy here, Feasting Troll. So there's a lot of hammers going on here. It's an interesting kind of take on Stompy. Here's what we got going on the sideboard. Obviously, like I said, you can go check out the decks to do a bigger, deeper dive. But again, nomenclature-wise, mono green because it's green, food deck because it creates all these lovely token artifact foods, and they all do something here. Very, very powerful deck, very consistent deck, and really enjoy playing this one as well. And that was a tier 1 deck. Next in tier 1, we also have an Esper Yorion Doom deck, so let's go grab that one if I can find it. I think, my friends, there we go. Esper Doom. Well, this particular one is an older one, so we'll just cover this one quick because otherwise I'm not going to be able to go find it. But here's kind of the main points of the deck. Again, we're running Esper, Splash of White. This particular one had Confounding Conundrum. You can still run this. It's got Dance of the Manse in it. It's not running the Yorions, but you can put the Yorions in it as well. Here's the sideboard. Everything still here works very well as well. But the idea is control the board, get Dooms on the board, get your Dance of the Manse back for hammer time. Game closing, you got Ashiok here to support lots of good things. So that is a big one that's moved back up in the pack. Pretty important to keep an eye on that one. It will continue to evolve as we keep moving forward here. I was just trying to see if I actually had it. Next, we have a Temur Ramp deck. So this one's pretty important too. It's pretty interesting. We got the... Where are you? Naya Ramp, Obosh. See, this is the problem. I got too many decks, you guys. So we are going to actually skip that one then. I do have it in there, but we will look at the Temur Obosh Adventures one instead, so I apologize. So here we go. Temur Obosh Adventures. So this is a big one. This particular one was by Kushiro, I believe. So what we got going on here, this thing's become really competitive. I think it was number 2 at the Channel Fireball Temur Obosh. Channel Fireball Showdown here. This is what we got going on. Lots of things. So it still drives that adventure engine. We get huge damage here with Terror of the Peaks. We have our ultimatum to trigger a lot of stuff. And then obviously Obosh here where everything just really hurts because it's all odd. And it deals damage. Odd converted mana cost would deal damage to a permanent player. It deals double that damage. So pretty powerful. And here's the sideboard. Pretty simple. Makes it easier when you only got 4 things there. Just kind of sideboard in and out versus the specific decks as well. All right, and then the last one last two I think I said I would do are the Yorion control decks. So let's go back one more. Or sorry, not Yorion control deck. Monocolored control deck splash Ugin. So here we go. Let's go take a look at this one here. This one's mono red, so this is also called Big Red. I really do like this deck, even though I said I like the mono black one better. But we got a lot going on, a lot of direct damage for creatures, a lot of ability to control. We got some creatures here, we got some board wipe. This is a key component, Ironcrag Feat, where you can cast this for 7. You got a lot of cool things that you can do, like pull in Ugin a little bit earlier. You can pump on your lovely Phoenix of Ash as well, and obviously a few other things. You could really pump up your Crawling Barrens, and that's one of the key cards I love in these decks. But obviously at the end of the day, it's about this guy Ugin. So early game board control, mid game board control, late game Ugin for the game. And then here is the sideboard as well. All right, lastly, we got mono black control here, my friends. So this one, like I said, I really like. I think the biggest thing for me was the amount of life that you actually gain out of this deck with Clackbridge Troll. It's pretty crazy, actually. A lot of people forget this. But you got a lot of good creature removal. You got card removal out of hands. You got lands. You got smoothing here, life gain, draw. Grim Tutor was a big thing here for me. I really like the 1-of to go search for an answer. We got good abilities, a 1-off again in terms of some of the control and some of the damage. And then huge things that do things here towards the top half. And then last, again, we got our Crawling Barrens. I do like Field of Ruin a ton too. So that's a great counter against other Crawling Barrens. So I almost feel like that should be in a lot of decks, or at least sideboard even sometimes. And then obviously here's that Necromentia that I talked about too. And this one also has a Soul Shatter. And there you go. All right, Planeswalkers, let's go back to the decks here. And I just want to say again, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel down over there. Additionally, like the video if you like it. You can like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and Twitch. Stay up to date on content like this. Lots more things coming your way. I do try to do a daily video for you. Today we talked about a best of 3 tier list for November, updated with about 40 decks. We talked about what a tier list was. We talked about the actual tier list. We talked about some trends and observations, and then obviously, I didn't walk through everything today. I changed the layout. So again, here's what we got going on, just because there are so many here, and it took me forever. Just to get the links, get the stuff positioned, write the article and all that. It's here, so don't fret. We did cover a few decks. Let me know what you think. And as always, Planeswalkers, I just want to say stay safe. If you don't watch anything, I guess, of mine until Thanksgiving or whatever, at least in the US, take care, enjoy the holidays. It's an important time, and we'll see you again soon. I really like doing this, and stay tuned. Actually, I'm still going to do a best of one for you. That's probably going to come more so next week, but keep an eye out. That's another good reason to sub or follow or whatever. So Planeswalkers, till next time, Mythras out. You stay safe. I'll see you soon. Stay tuned and enjoy the tier list. I'm so happy about this meta. So happy about this list. Lots of good things going. All right, I'm gone.